Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today, we are going to be talking about what I think is a really stupid decision that, I don't know if it's most or all, whatever, some majority amount of LCS owners seem like they are getting closer and closer to making or voting on, or at the very least, trying to make happen. And I know that historically, over the last couple of months, a year, whatever, I have been very vocal, very outspoken about how I think, as a whole, the LCS, and really the LEC as well, it's been becoming more clear and more apparent that a lot of these teams have bad management in place that makes bad decisions. I think the owners overall make a lot of dumb decisions. The managers, general managers, coaches, all you know, really from the top down, a lot of these esports organizations are poorly managed. This is a new field. It's a lot of new people. It's a lot of inexperienced people. And today we're going to be talking about one of those decisions yet again that I really am very against, and I really think could have an overall very negative impact on the LCS going forward. But before we get into that, make sure you guys do drop a like on this video. I'd appreciate it so much. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. I think like 65% of the people that watch my videos on a regular basis aren't subscribed. So there's plenty out there who watch my stuff. Just click that subscribe button. It'd be awesome. With that being said, here we go. So we're talking about one of Travis Gafford's videos. This was like 5-6 days ago. This was a very popular video. It actually did pretty well, like 50K views without being like an interview or anything like that. This is called Riot's New Concerning Approach to Esports Media. My coverage is changing. I dropped a like on it. I'm subscribed to Travis. This is an awesome video. You guys should definitely check it out. I'm just talking about one little blip in this video. But Travis talks about how Riot is making media members do pre-submitted questions. Riot gets like filter out what they want to talk about, what they don't, and how this is very concerning, and how it lets Riot get away from talking about, in teams, get away from talking about maybe more hard-hitting questions or talking about things that they maybe don't want to talk about. And in this video, Travis dropped a little bomb on us that I haven't heard many people talking about, that I haven't seen get much coverage. And luckily, I have a channel here. I have a little bit of an audience. I have a little bit of a voice. So I wanted to talk about it and hopefully put this on some people's radar. So let's see what Travis has to say about what LCS owners are kind of plotting on doing at the moment.
But again, this is a pretty big issue, and the fact that they only selected a couple questions to answer, they got to pick and choose and avoid the other ones, is a big problem. One of the questions I submitted was about the academy system, by the way, because I've heard that some of the LCS owners want to get rid of having to have an academy team because LEC.
So that is very big. And again, I have not heard people talking about this. And Travis, it's on his radar. It's something he wants to ask about, and it's something that he wants to talk about, but Riot is kind of filtering him right now. Riot is not even giving him the opportunity to ask the LCS or anyone about this. But man, this does not surprise me, but I think this would be such a horrible decision by the LCS. So they are interested in getting rid of the requirement to have an LCS Academy team. And I think this is absolutely hilarious because over the last couple of months, we've been talking a ton about how the LCS owners, I believe all of them, if not a large majority of them, want to get rid of the import rule. They want to be able to get any player anywhere. They want to have less roster restrictions, and that'll save them a ton of money. It'll open up a bigger player base, a bigger player pool to them, and that's great in a lot of ways, but people have been very concerned about that destroying the North American scene, that it would destroy opportunities for North American players to actually come up and climb up, and it would destroy North American solo queue in a lot of ways because the players at the top and even the medium would be, they'd have less motivation, less reason to grind hard because they're not even going to have a shot to get to the LCS anyway, because they're going to be behind a million imports and a million other regions and players, and really that would start to have an effect on the game's popularity, viewership. It would hurt the LCS in a ton of ways, but in the short term, it would help the owners. It would make things cheaper. It would maybe give NA some better results. It would be great in a lot of ways, but the LCS owners have been saying, hey, don't worry guys, even if we get rid of the import rule, we're still committed to North American players. We still want to develop infrastructure. We're still going to do academy and amateur. We're still going to put a ton of money and all that blah blah. That's what Jack, that's what Reggie, that's what Steve, that's what these guys have been saying on Twitter and in interviews and everything. But then apparently behind the scenes they have been pushing to remove the academy team requirement, and that's just hilarious. And again, that's not shocking to me that to the cameras or to the media or to the public they're saying one thing, but behind the scenes they're doing something totally different. And again, I would love to find out more about this. I would love to hear from a team or an owner having to answer questions about, what are you guys doing? Why are you saying one thing, doing another? Do you guys have plans to get rid of your academy teams? Or do you just want the option to get rid of your academy teams? Because in a lot of ways, I understand. For some teams, in certain financial, a lot of these teams are in financial trouble. A lot of these teams in the LCS are not making a profit. A lot of these teams are strapped for cash. And for a lot of these teams, having the increased flexibility of not being required to have an academy roster. Just because you're voting for not wanting to be required to have an academy roster doesn't mean you would necessarily get rid of your academy team. It just means that if you think you need one or think you want one or would gain financial benefit or whatever, that you can have one, and if you don't, then you wouldn't have to. That doesn't mean, just because TSM votes to not be required to have an academy team doesn't mean their academy team would be gone. But again, the requirement for all these teams having an academy team is what props up the academy system that we currently have in place. And what we have is the absolute bare minimum. It hasn't been good. We haven't seen the development of a lot of players and everything like that. But if teams are able to start pulling out of this, things are only going to get worse. Like, we would see more and more of these amateur organizations. We would see less and less money. We would see less facilities. We would see less coaching. Like, if what we already have in place is bad and we're going to go to even worse just to potentially save these owners a little bit of money or a little bit of flexibility or whatever, I really think that goes against everything that they are saying. Now, Travis does go on to talk about the LEC a little bit, and I think this is interesting. It does add to the conversation.
LEC was able to get rid of this earlier. They got to choose not to have to address that. Now, I should say...
So, obviously, what this article and this headline, I've seen this a while ago. I don't think I actually covered it on my channel, but LEC teams did vote to not be required to have an academy team in 2022. I think 9 of the 10 LEC teams voted for this. I think the only one that voted against it was Rogue, which is interesting. But again, after this vote passed, a lot of the teams came out like G2 and said that, hey, we're still going to have G2 Arctic. We're still going to have an academy team. And again, their reasons for voting against it were just like, if one day we decide that academy's not worth it or we don't want it anymore or whatever, we don't want to have it. And that's totally fine. Also, something like that makes a lot more sense in Europe, where regional leagues are absolutely booming. ERL organizations have shown that they are competent, that they can develop players very, very well, that the systems, the regions, the leagues, everything that they have in place, coaching staff, management, organizations, is competent and is able to consistently develop talent at a good rate. It can keep players moving into the LEC, having them prepared for the LEC, and it's overall a really, really good working ecosystem. So I understand more why the LEC would not want to have academy teams. There's also less money in the LEC. These organizations are not as rich. They are not making as much money. They don't have as good of sponsorships or whatever. But in the LCS, we have more money, we have more opportunity, and we also have we don't have the ERL system. We don't have a minor league system that is currently flourishing, that is consistently developing talent in the right way. We need our teams to be putting more time, more resources, more energy into the North American players, yet we keep talking about removing the import rule, bringing in more imports. Now we're talking about removing academy teams, and really this is all short-term money grabs for these owners to be saving pennies here and there, because honestly, at the end of the day, how much of like TSM or Team Liquid or whatever, how much of their expenses are really going towards their academy team? Short-term expenses that again would be hurting the future outlook of North American players and overall the North American infrastructure and the overall LCS in the future, with viewership already declining, with already more and more imports, with already less and less North American players. We're going to take away academy teams, we're going to take away support from the top organizations, coaches, facilities, all that stuff. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, I don't see a lot of people talking about this right now, and I really think they should be. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I'd appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. Do you think the LCS should get rid of the academy teams? Do you think teams shouldn't be required to have an academy team? Do you think amateur orgs are enough? I mean, we already had the one amateur org not even paying their players this last offseason. It's just a mess. Subscribe, stay updated on my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.